G'day and welcome to the GameDay show, GameDay Squad, NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Dyl, that's Stu, and we are the Fantasy Bros. We've partnered with GameDay Squad to bring you all you need to know this NRL season so that you can succeed in GDS Rugby League in 2026. I am sorry, we have done a show last night, a show today. We are absolutely cooked and it is unreal. We've got NFL, we've got AFL, we've got NRL. We're all over the place, but it is Wednesday and you know what that means. Teamless Tuesday has dropped. And we've got plenty to discuss. We've got plenty of guns that have returned this week to help coaches across multiple comps. We've got the GDS Cup finals heating up. We've got the Sunday Showdown into all the finals now. The wild card is done. The special comps, the prize battle continues. There's plenty happening, and it's all happening in round 24. But before we get there, mate, Stu, welcome to the show. Let's go around the grounds. How did you go in round 23?
Yeah, g'day, Dyl. G'day, everyone. Thanks for tuning in once again, as always. Yeah, mate, you can definitely be forgiven. All the work you're doing, not just in front of the camera, but behind the scenes, is absolutely fantastic. An action-packed month, at least, for the Fantasy Bros before things slowly start to get back into rhythm, I think, when the gridiron season kicks off. Mate, round 23 wasn't too bad for me. A fifth and under 24s. That's back to back, I think, top 10s in that competition. So getting some nice legend hunters ready for next season. 12th in Challenger, which is my priority comp at the moment, currently first overall with a few rounds left. It's that man, Ryan Couchman, and the Dragons Young Guns getting it done in the under 24 competition. We knew that he was going to have a big role with Toby Couchman out. I don't think anyone thought that he could go the full 80, like 67 tackles for just the 2 missed, 153 run meters, 3 tackle breaks, so more tackle breaks than missed tackles, and he made 67 as well. 88 points in base. What an absolute freak.
Yeah, it's, the Dragons are just absolutely on fire, and we obviously have a benchmark now for Ryan Couchman playing 80 minutes. We'll expect that week in, week out. Look, before I get to my results, massive shout out to Cozzy Posse, a good friend of the show. He's followed us for a long time. He was able to jag a second in Classic this week, falling short by only 6 points as well. So no doubt he'll be ruined, just maybe 1 or 2 decisions there, but great work on that second place, Cozzy. It's awesome to see people that have followed the show for a long time finally have some success across multiple competitions, and Cozzy's definitely one of those, one of the good blokes that follow us week in, week out, and is always commenting. So congrats to Cozzy Posse. Also, a quick shout out to a couple of friends of the show, Wet Bandits and Zoe Zucchinis. They had a fierce battle in starter. Wet Bandits got it done by 0.8 points. He finished 9th of the round, and then just ahead of Zoe Zucchinis, who finished in 10th. So a massive little battle there in the starter comp. Look, for me, it was actually a horrible week, to be honest. I lost my GDS Cup matchup to Penrith, and then I lost my FantasyBros Sunday Showdown as well. So I got completely dusted in the 2 comps that are off platform. But fortunately, I got an 8th in primetime, which I think is my best primetime result this season, thanks to a couple of Warriors boys, in particular Luke Metcalf and Leka Halasima, who's found a bit of new life over in the centres, rather playing on the edge. But it was Jacob Little that got it done for me, 73 in base. Obviously played that 80 minutes, a late switcheroo between Cookie and Little. We'd actually talked about it on the show previously as well. We said, when is Little going to get his chance to show what he can do once the reins are his at hooker? And we can see that. And we've talked about him plenty of times. Fingers crossed he gets another shot at it this weekend, we're hoping, although he hasn't been named to start yet. But we've got a little bit of a theory that we might talk about soon.
Dean Young, big fan of the show. He must have been listening for sure. And after 23 rounds, decided that, yeah, Sunday was the time. Let's hope that that same change happens 90 minutes out from kickoff, or maybe even sooner for us coaches. There you have it. Look, Dyl and I, and a number of our followers as well, continue to have plenty of success in all competitions. We'll be coming live to you every single Wednesday night to preview the upcoming round. So make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Bros YouTube channel right now so you don't miss a thing. Our Wednesday night shows will preview who we think are the best plays across each of the positions. We'll discuss all of the important start sits of the weeks. We'll reveal our consensus starter side. We'll talk about a number of players that we think are points of difference. We'll talk about some players that we're keen to fade. We'll tell you about the recent averages and which team are conceding points, which teams are scoring plenty of points. So plenty of stats as well to feast your eyes upon. Big shout out to the Stats Lab as well for the stats that they provide, as well as for the Stats Lab primetime competition, which we'll talk about. We'll preview the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown, which is really heating up, and we're not too far away from that grand prize winner being revealed. I'm certainly getting nervous for that. And as every single Wednesday night show, you, the viewers, will have plenty of opportunities to win cards. We've been giving away 9 cards every single show, just for someone commenting on who they think will win the all-important BroDown ShowDown segment.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of fun, and I think just a little teaser, it's getting very close. I know I took a bit of a lead, but you're clawing your way back in that BroDown Showdown, so we'll see how we go. Look, the other thing is, I know it's round 24, finals are around the corner, but it's never too late to get involved with GameDay Squad. I think that's the best thing, and we talked about that last night when we filmed the Gridiron Show, and a little bit of an intro to the Gridiron Show, that this platform's so unique because you can press clear all and start your squad again each and every week, and it means you can jump in at any point. And Fantasy Bro Matt did suggest off screen that he actually started midway through season 1 of GameDay Squad and was still able to manage some really good victories across the half a season that he was playing. So it's definitely not too late to get involved. You just download the app, visit the website, and use the promo code FBRL26. Now, if you don't want to get involved with rugby league, but you have stumbled across this channel and you're really keen to get involved with the Gridiron, use that promo code, but let us know, and we'll sort you out some Gridiron packs once they have dropped as well. That code will get you 3x9 player common packs for free, just for putting that code in and letting GameDay Squad know that the Fantasy Bros have sent you. You can use referral codes as well. You can help your mates and get more people involved for even more packs, more cards, and a whole lot of fun. Plus, there is heaps of free bronze starter packs that you'll be able to open. As you said, there's a grand prize for the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. Obviously, no one can get into that now. That's locked away, but that is $5,000 cash. We've also got up to $4,000 in cash and pack prizes each and every week to be run on the platform this NRL season. So plenty of time. Go and sign up now. Get your friends involved. And because Gridiron's just around the corner once NRL has finished. So there's plenty of fantasy to go around. Alrighty, mates, with those out of the way, let's jump straight into our positional analysis. We'll kick off with the hookers. Remember, you can have one hooker on field, and then you could play 1 or 2 on your bench as well. A little bit short on some big names here. We've got Blake Brayley obviously leading the pack there in the strongly considered. We've put Jacob Little in there in the hope that he's going to get named over Damien Cook. And then we've got Jeremy Marshall-King snuck his way into the strongly considered as well. Our 2-point difference, Owen Paddy hopefully starts again for the Raiders. And then Api Coruscant sort of figures into some calculations at the back end of the round as well. The fade this week, Ollie Pascoe, he was benched. Even if he does start, he's probably still a fade. And then Reece Robson, who we have been pretty keen on over a number of weeks. We might get him into our primetime teams, though. Mate, who are you going for? Who's your number 1 hooker this week?
Well, it's probably that guy that you mentioned at the top of the show, Jacob Little. But there's just too much uncertainty at the moment about if he is going to start in that number 9 jersey like he did 90 minutes out from kickoff last round. Unfortunately, the Sharkies play much earlier than the Dragons do. And so the current player on my side is Blake Brayley. Look, it's the minutes that he gets. It's the safety he provides. He hasn't been setting the world alight, really. The hooker position is getting kind of boring. It was pretty nice at that period of time where Ollie Pascoe was tearing it up, scoring tries. But Blake Brayley just averaging 52. It's a pretty safe score. You know you're going to get around 50 each and every week. So look, he's not the worst guy to just chuck in there, but there's plenty of upside in a guy like Jacob Little. We said it in the show last week. You said it what happened on the weekend just gone. We just want it to happen again. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait till Sunday 4 p.m. to see if Jacob Little does play, which means you have to make the decision. Do you lock Blake Brayley in for his safety sort of 50-odd points, or do you chase that upside, Jacob Little? No attacking stats last week in terms of tries or try assists. Did get a line break. 56 tackles, though, and still managed to run 66 meters in that first game of 80 minutes for the season. So surely we can see, or Dean Young and everyone else in the Dragons organization can see the effect that that had. He's been named in the 14 again. Why? That's the decision, isn't it, Dill? What are you going to do about that? Are you going to wait for that announcement and then maybe pivot to Api Coruscant, which, look, isn't amazing, but he did also get his first 80-minute game in quite some time just before their bye. So it's not the worst pivot if you had to, but gee, we just love some certainty around Little being named in the 9, wouldn't we?
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing that you touch on, that if you are keen to play Little and you're not sure about what's going to happen, you've got Api Coruscant there as the only pivot option. So Api's not a bad option. The Dragons are the second best matchup for hookers. 66 to Pascoe a couple of weeks ago, 44 to Brayley amongst the past 3 scores. So there's definitely some opportunity there for Api. I just find there's not a lot of upside, and he's obviously not kicking goals where we've seen in the past that he has been. He also falls off tackles like every hooker does, and it really can cost you at the end of the day. So I think the safety in Brayley is the simple option. And look, their matchup's not too bad. The Raiders have allowed 40 points to starting hookers over the last 3 games. So I think that matchup would be quite nice. The Sharks obviously getting dusted last week. They'll probably want to bounce back. They were sort of in that top 4 realm, and they want to continue that form. But the Raiders are probably done for the season after Corey Horsburgh slapped their way out of the finals, I think. But you never know what can happen in NRL. But I'd say that's probably where they've sort of dropped their heads a little bit, and the Sharks will need to find that form. So maybe Brayley does have a big game because of that. But yeah, it'll be that decision. I think maybe in something like Challenger, where there's a bit of a pod side that I put together, I'll probably play Little and then have the switch to Api if required. But I think Little just likes playing with the 14 on his back. So even if he is named on the bench each week, hopefully we get him starting for the Dragons. And Cookie, like we said last week, mate, just start an early off season and get yourself ready for that Super League, because it's a different beast over there. So just have a bit of a break and let Little do all the work now.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Cookie's probably sleeps in that number 9 jersey, though. He probably never takes it off, and that's why Little can't wrestle it away from him, and he just has to be named in the 14 each and every week. Look, Jeremy Marshall-King might be a decent point of difference as well. Got him in the strongly considers, but look, it's really just between those 2 that we've mentioned. He's more of a pod play. Manly are conceding plenty of points to hookers. In fact, they're the only team in the last 3 rounds to average over 50 points against hookers, a 76 to Pascoe and a 50 to that man Brayley amongst those scores as well. So I think he'll get a start in my primetime squad, at least over Reece Robson. Panthers only allowing about 25 points to hookers in the past 3. So yeah, I think more points on offer there for the Finns and J&K. So
we've given out 4 options, and hopefully people are able to find those cards with those 4 options. If they don't, or if they want to go somewhere completely different, Owen Paddy's probably your next best. We saw him have a bit of a spell. He moved to the bench last week, but the previous weeks where he started, he's had some real success there. Is that someone that you're keen to get into your side as well?
Yeah, it's just so tough with Ricky's roulette. He does it all the time, not just with the middle forwards, but now with the hooker position as well. And when you're pretty confident in a player and then they get moved back to the bench at the start of the game, technically they can spend the whole 80 minutes on the bench, like we saw from Damien Cook. Well, Paddy's not going to do that, obviously. But look, if there are injuries and, the interchanges need to be moved around or shuffled around slightly, he could get less than the 60 minutes he's been knocking out. So, yeah, look, if you want to play on Paddy with confidence, you'd want to make sure that he's still starting in the side 90 minutes out from kickoff, but still a decent option in the under 24 competition, I'd imagine.
Yeah, good shout. And don't forget to comment who you think you're going to be playing this weekend as well in all of the positions, and any questions that you have. Of course, Sif Kanga was in here nice and early, getting his howdy, let's get rowdy. So it's great to see him, even though the new time slot was 7 o'clock. And then, as we mentioned, that Cosy Posse coming second, a massive shout out to him. And thanks very much for all of your support. So get all your comments in as well. Let's jump across to the middles. And look, before we start talking about middle forwards, I just want to say we've got across the middle and edge position, I reckon we've got 13 genuine options that we can select from this weekend. And we've only got 7 spots to fill. Unless you do want to go a bit crazy and have a couple of hookers in your team, we've got to somehow find 7 spots from 13. It's going to be really difficult. Is it as simple as the 3 that we've got on screen and Payne Haas, who's been down a little bit, and then the returning Tigers in May and Twal? Is that where you're heading, and then looking at points of difference elsewhere, or are you maybe bringing in a point of difference?
Yeah, I am looking at those 3, not with any certainty, and that can probably change between now and particularly the time that Dragons-Tigers game does kick off. Look, Alex Twal, Terrell May set the world alight at the start of the season, sort of, battling each other for GDS supremacy at which middle forward could score the most points. They've quietened off a little bit. You can see there Alex Twal just 48 points, including a sin bin average in the last 3. Terrell May down. He's 56 as well. Payne Haas, lower in terms of what we expect from him, just the 57 average. So there is still, uncertainty around those 3 guys. Teams are out of contention for the finals there as well. So do these guys get fewer minutes on the park as well? They're all things that can definitely happen at this time of the year. Also, if they have a little bit of a niggle, a little bit of a knock, there's every chance they don't come back to the field because they're not really needed. This time last year, Payne Haas was seeing massive minutes, and, every single time he was carting the footy up, trying to get an offload out to Reece Walsh to make something happen. But that mind frame, that game's totally different now for the Brizzy Bronx, and same situation there for the Tigers. So, look, no certainty, but I think a couple of points of difference that we'll bring up shortly is the guys I'm a bit more confident in, despite Twal, May and Haas doing it just about all season long so far.
And I guess, firstly, the big question is, you touched on that Sunday afternoon show, and Sif Kanga's got Twal, Haas and Couchman, so he's actually looking at fading Terrell May at the moment and bringing in Toby Couchman, who has been named on the bench. Is that something that you're going to consider as well? Is it just bring him in and hope that he starts, or do we still get some output from him off the bench?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? It wasn't like it was a soft tissue injury. It wasn't a knee. It wasn't a shoulder. It was a head knock, obviously, which should be managed. But look, if he's named and he's good to go, then you probably expect him playing big minutes in the middle of the park. But look, maybe it's because of how good his brother was in the rest of the pack last week that he hasn't been able to find a spot in the starting side. Look, I don't think there's any worry about playing him in your side if you're confident. Probably still pumps out 60 to 65 minutes. We did see Ryan Couchman getting about 60 at the start of the season, despite him being named on the bench to begin the match as well. Obviously, there is just that sort of psychological barrier when your player is named on the bench and you're sort of itching and waiting for them to get onto the field. All it really does is just put a line through the possibility of 80 minutes, which is where we want, plenty of upside for these middle forwards. May, Twal, Haas can all go 80, but Toby Couchman can't do that if he starts on the bench. Still think he'll be fine with 60 minutes, but you do have a pivot option there. If you don't like, if you get a bit sick of looking at him on the bench, and you might want to revert to a Twal or Terrell May. But look, those 4 options, Haas, May, Twal, Couchman, plus all of those points of difference that we'll get to now, I don't think you can really go wrong with any of them. They'll all pump out decent scores and a little bit of upside there as well for all of them.
Yeah, and just for anyone that is keen on Toby Couchman, he has played off the bench 1 game this season in round 5. He had 58 minutes and he scored 57 GDS points, and that was pretty much all base and power there. There wasn't really any attacking stats. He had 1 offload. So there is potential for him to still score well. If we can see, like you said, that sort of 60 minutes off the bench, it's going to be very similar. It's just whether you can get your head around the idea of having a player starting on the bench in your GDS side. Look, let's talk about those points of difference. We've touched on them quite a bit. On screen, we've got Lindsay Smith, who finds his way into the lock roll with Isaiah Yeo out potentially until second round of finals, if they make it that far. And then Jack Williams, my boy, who is just absolutely on fire. You can see there the 3-round rolling average of 62 is the best of all the middles at the moment. So
wow.
He's on fire, whether he plays in the middle or on the edge. But talk to us, who is your biggest point of difference, I think, this week? Is it going to be Lindsay Smith?
Yeah, it is. And that average on screen is obviously misleading. 42 for the season, 42 for the past 3. Gee, he's consistent, isn't he? But he's a totally different player when Isaiah Yeo isn't in the side. And we know that he won't be a late inclusion. Not named. He's got that pec injury. He's going to be out for some time. Lindsay Smith has played 4 games in the past 2 seasons without Isaiah Yeo. But if you filter it just for this season, the numbers are actually even better. But since last year, scores are 52, 46, 92, and 74. For an average of 66 through 72 minutes and a PPM of 0.92. If we look at Isaiah Yeo's numbers for this season, it's an average of 13 points per game, better than what Isaiah Yeo has produced when he's been on the field. So we're basically getting Isaiah Yeo plus 13 points in Lindsay Smith when Yeo's not on the field. So he's going to get it done in work. He's not always going to... He's actually capable of some attack here and there, particularly, late on in a half or at the end of the game. He can sort of crash over. I'm not so sure that'll happen against the Roosters, but I can see certainly a lot of ball through the middle. He's going to get through a mountain of work. And the big difference between him and Yo on the field is Yo wants to ball play a little bit more, whereas Lindsay Smith's just going to tuck it under his arm and get through a bit more of the rough stuff. So I think the tackle numbers will be high, the run meters will be high, 70 minutes on the park. I think Lindsay Smith is a great play this round.
Yep. And as you said, those 3 games this season where he has played lock, averaging 72 minutes for 70 GDS points, I think that's a really good indicator of what we're going to expect from Lindsay Smith. And I think we talked about it once a couple of weeks ago when he was starting in place of Isaiah Yo, and he went out and had a big score there. So I think that's definitely probably the top of the list. But Jack Williams, look, the difference I think that last week to previous weeks is he only missed 2 tackles. I think previously he had 5, 6, 7 across the other games, but he maybe he's tightening his missed tackle up a little bit, playing on the edge. But I'm really keen to get him at my side again. He just seems to be getting through the work, and he's always looking for some attack now. And whether he's playing in the middle or on the edge, he still looks just as dangerous. But you've got another bloke as well that has sort of bounced between the edge and middle role for the last few weeks. And we're going to discount one of the games that he played where he didn't score too many.
And that was the one game that I played in with a lot of confidence. That's Xavier Willison. That 3.3 minute stint still gives me nightmares. Didn't watch 77 minutes of footy. That's how much it affected me that night, that he left the field with that injury. Comes back with a pretty solid 60 and a try. But look, back into the middle where it's probably more suited to his style in terms of fantasy output, because he is an absolute workhorse. Obviously, a lesser-known name in that pack alongside the likes of Carrigan Haas, but absolutely rolls his sleeves up and gets plenty of work done. Look, I'm not so sure I'm confident in him in one of my champion or challenger sides that I'm putting a lot of stock into, but absolutely plenty of salary in the under 24 competition. His numbers through the middle have been really good. Now, some people might think, oh, that's because Haas and Carrigan are out through Origin, but he still played 2 games through the middle alongside Payne Haas this season for scores of 59 and 60. Got 80 minutes in one of them, 57 in the other. Did score a try in that as well. But he does move to the edge late in the game as well. So you can probably expect big minutes. And there's every chance if he's on the edge, end of the game, late on, there's every chance, Ezra Mam just says, here, have the footy, see if you can run over the top of one of those halves. Don't mind it. I don't know if I can get there, particularly after what he did to me 2 rounds ago. Definite shout in the under 24s. I might just throw out a dime in there in the under 24s and pray.
I think if you do change your mind and you bring him into some of your standard full round squads, I think you might need to put a little PSA on the Discord to let everyone know so that they fade him.
Yeah, good idea.
Look, big shout out to Matty P, who's joined us. He did get me in the Sunday Showdown, so he does live for another week. He's now on to the next round. So well done, Matty P. I think he ended up 3rd for the week in the Sunday Showdown as well. So a massive effort, considering I think a lot of players went with Sharkies that did not do well. I'm certain that I did that. Alrighty. So look, we've talked about 7 players already in the middle. We've got another bunch of players that we can get through in the edge. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, in terms of some of the players that we're keen on in the edge position. The strongly considered, obviously, Ryan Couchman is the top of the list there. Hamole Olakau'atu as well. And then Jacob Preston continues to get it done in just pace and power. You can see those averages there well above what their season averages are. Olakau'atu slightly down, but that's pretty consistent from him throughout the season. Now, 2 points of difference. Helen Lukey continues to just be an absolute weapon on the right side there for the Cowboys when they don't really have much left in the tank as well. And then the surprise packet in Manu Leilua. Usually we talk about a different edge forward for the Knights, but he has taken a massive step forward, and you can see that 3-round average of 67 there. So the 3 strongly considered, are we locking those straight in and then we are looking for some additional play outside of that? Or is there maybe a little tinkering that you're going to do with your edge positions, Stu?
Yeah, like you said, 13 really good options across 7 positions. So some blokes are going to have to miss out. I do think Couchman, Olakau'atu and Preston are the top 3, and by a little bit as well, not just because they've got the biggest ceilings necessarily, but maybe a bit more safety, a bit more consistency, particularly in someone like Jacob Preston. The Dogs are having a bit of a resurgence. We've seen some pretty big numbers from Preston in the past few. And the pleasing thing is that he's still scoring well, even if he's not finding the try line. Now, the Doggies have a pretty nice matchup there on the right-hand side of the field against the Rabbitohs this round. Lockie Galvin even looks like a bit of a shout there. And if we're talking him a conversation for a half spot or a point of difference, because the numbers sort of dictate that, then the bloke outside him that he loves throwing a short ball to is certainly in the conversation as well. I do think Preston will find an attacking stat or two over the likes of someone like Finny Filiaki. Great play, but look, we saw the downside of someone like him last week. 0 tackle breaks, no offloads, no attack, and a mid-40s score, which is pretty disappointing. I think someone like Jacob Preston, if he doesn't find the try line, probably still gets through a few extra points than that. And we know what Olukwatu's doing, can break a tackle, can score a try at will. Ryan Couchman, one of the safest players in the competition right now, and definitely in prize card discussion, which I think you or Matty might have brought up not too long ago.
Yeah, definitely. Finny Filiaki's a tough one. We talked about him last week in that he has been racking it up in just base and power, and he obviously hasn't really scored a try, and we touched on that for a long time, but he always looks dangerous. And last week, they just went left the whole time, and obviously, Lemuelu obviously got across for a couple, and that made the difference. But I think it's going to be one of those plays where I think we're going to be a little bit upset that we didn't bring in Finny Filiaki this week, because I think there could be some points for him to be had. But talk to me about the Knights young gun and how quickly you want to bring him into your side in Manu Leilua.
Yeah, come on down, Francis Manu Leilua. Where's this come from? Scores of 71, 51, and 73 in the past three. You might think, he must just have a hat trick in one of those matches. Just the one try in those three games. His accruing stats all over the field. He had an insane 9 tackle breaks last week versus Canberra, just showcasing that he's got that raw ability, a bit like Hamole Olukwatu, just a lot less experience. He's confident. He's in form. The Knights are scoring well. They're playing decent footy. They got Bradman Best back. Titans, are probably thinking about the holiday that they've got planned. They're just sort of just making up the numbers at the moment, despite, playing some decent footy in patches. Someone like the Knights are probably going to be a little bit more hungry here. And look, things are happening for Manu Leilua down that side of the field. I think that continues this week. Look, I'm so keen to play him in one of my champion or challenger sides, which I prioritize pretty highly. But that means at the expense of, one of those other edges we've already spoken about, or the likes of Terrell May, Alex Twal. There's just so many good options. If I can't quite do that, he's definitely going to get around alongside Xavier Willison in the under 24s. You will have to scroll down some distance to find him based on averages, but maybe that means he's a bit of a cheeky pod even in that competition. I think his percentage played will be very low in the Challenger, Classic, Champion, Contender, and Starter competitions. So if you're someone brave enough to roll out and hope for a little-known Manu Leilua getting another big score, I think he's every chance again this week.
And the positive signs, I think, just from a passing the eye test point of view, is that his first tackle break and line break was through the middle of the field as well. It wasn't like he was running over one of the little blokes on the edge. It was through some of the middle forwards there in Canberra, who are some big boys. So it was great to see that he can get that job done with his power game through the middle as well as on the edge. So I think that's going to be a big play. And it's just, as you said, it's going to be about finding the space for him. Who do you leave out and who do you not play in some of those bigger games? I really like Helam Lukey and what he's done over the last 3 weeks as well. He's been dominating stat lines for the Cowboys now. He's got that 3-round average of 63, and in that time, he's averaging 45 tackles, 100 running meters, 2.5 tackle breaks. So it's pace and power. But then he's also averaging 1 try per game over the last 3 weeks. And they're obviously making it a point that they want to get him the ball as much as possible in some one-on-one situations as well, where he can just sort of use a little bit of footwork and some power to get over the line. And I think that could happen again this weekend, and just throws another spanner into the works with how do we find another spot for Helam Lukey in our sides where he's putting up some really big numbers. So, there's a lot of question marks over the makeup of sides. And I think I don't like to diversify too much across all of my sides, because then you don't quite get the combinations right. But I think I might have to this weekend. I think all 3 teams in terms of Classic, Challenger, and Champion are going to have a different combination of middles and edges, just so I get a piece of all of the upside that's available this weekend. Look, just quickly, a couple of injuries to consider as well. Simi Sasangi has got that shoulder concern, and he's not playing. Hudson Young and Dill Lucas out for the rest of the season, so just keep an eye on that. In terms of the fades, Tallis Duncan, he's been travelling along really nicely in the centres. He's averaging 56 in the last 3. He's got a little bit of a tougher matchup against the Dogs this weekend. They're allowing 20 points in the past 3. And then Matty Nicholson getting a start this weekend against the Sharks, another tough matchup, allowing 39 in the past 3. So they're a couple of fades that we are thinking. Last word, just before we move on, give us your top 4 edges that you're going to be rolling out into your best side this weekend, Stu.
All right, I'll choose 4 on the screen. Olakua, 2 Couchman, Preston, and then Big Manu Leilua, which Matty P, the Circus Crew, we've seen his comment there. He played him last week in the Sunday Showdown, and a Platt version as well, the 1.3 times multiplier, and a big reason why he got it done, and he'll be doing that again this weekend. Yeah, I love it. Great play. The
pod with the salary on top, unreal option. Great work. Alrighty, let's jump into the halves. Obviously, some easy decisions to be made here. Cleary and Hines are probably our 2 locks. And for the first time in a long time, we've got Jaden Campbell as a fade. So we'll talk about some reasons why there in a moment. But we've got Lukey Metcalf. Finally, he gets a run with Tamaro Martins coming to a hammy concern, and he just absolutely lights it up. So he's made his way into the strongly considers as well. You can see, obviously, his average for the season is quite low, but his last 3 is a little bit higher. Then our point of difference, we've got Izzy Katoa, who is back for the Dolphins in their run home. And then you touched on him before, Lockie Galvin's got a really good matchup this weekend. And then in our fades, as I said, Jaden Campbell and Ethan Sanders got a pretty tough matchup this weekend. So let's start off. Is Jaden Campbell really a fade this week, or is it sort of wait and see based on the news that we get throughout the rest of the week?
Yeah, look, I don't know. It's a tough one. I'm happy to put him on the fade list because I just can't get this bloke right. If people are going to play Jaden Campbell, if I'm not playing him, he's probably going to get a big score. If I play him, he's not going to get... I might feed all of our episodes through AI and see if AI can do a quick summary. Anytime I say anything about Jaden Campbell, anything positive, see what he scores that round and vice versa. I reckon it's the one player I get wrong too often. But yeah, look, I'm planting my flag in the fade category this round. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why anyone that wants to follow. Look, they're not getting less than 30 points to both halves through the past 5 matches. And look, that's pretty telling when you look at it in terms of what's happening on both sides of the field. Not just that, though, but it's been reported during the week that he's actually playing with a bit of turf toe. He's been in the moon boot during the week, a bit of rehab there. Look, the Titans are out of running for the finals. I think the wheels are slowly starting to fall off. They couldn't even beat a team that got belted by 82 the week prior. So, look, and that turf toe is something that you can't really, dismiss. It's obviously can be managed with pain-killing injection, but, pushing off that leg, the power, which Jaden Campbell, relies on with his change of direction, his acceleration is really important. And if he's not doing that to the best of his ability, then we're likely to see a bit of a downward trend in his output. Really confident in him last week. Had a pretty ordinary score. I'm tipping it to happen again, and my faith is in your boy Lukey Met this week.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, that turf toe is the big concern. It's tough when you hear reports that he comes off the field and straight after the game he gets put into a moon boot. It's not great news. Turf toe, we haven't really heard a lot of it as well in the NRL. We've obviously heard quite a bit of it in the past from the NFL, but a bit of an interesting one because it can be managed, but it's still quite difficult, as you say, in that power game. So if we are fading Jaden Campbell, which it sounds like we are, is Luke Metcalf, as you said, the next best option then, or is Lockie Galvin someone that you're really considering?
Yeah, I love both options, and I think each of them might get a run in 2 of my favourite teams, being champion and challenger. Look, if Lukey Met scored 85 last week against, say, a Titans or a Dragons, I probably wouldn't be this excited about him. But how he played and how he performed against the Panthers was something that you can't really shy away from. He was absolutely incredible, wasn't he? And big reason, obviously, why the Warriors had a good win there. And it wasn't just a close win, it was a convincing win. And he played a massive role in that. 2 tries, 4 goals, 1 try assist, a line break assist, 4 tackle breaks, 500 kicking meters. No one else in that team wants to put boot to ball when he's out there on the field. And that's just easy points for him in terms of some base output. Bit of an easier, bit of an easier game this week against the Bronx, although they could absolutely throw up anything. You know how the Bronx dismantled Penrith a couple of weeks ago as well. But look, Bronx are definitely looking towards the end of the season as well. So because he performed so well against Penrith, I think we have to go back there. I don't think it's chasing last week's points. We're talking about the guy that was in the running for the Dally M medal after 12 weeks last season, before a pretty disappointing injury for himself and his footy side. So yeah, I think absolutely every reason to be confident in Metcalf repeating the dose this week.
Yeah, it is such a shame that his attitude behind the scenes probably isn't a little bit better, and that's one of the reasons why the Warriors were happy to let him go, because I think that the Dragons have got themselves an unreal talent next season. I think, Ganners has nailed it, really, that everyone's jumping on Metcalf hype just probably a week too late. But look, I think I've been keen to sort of just store his cards away, knowing that he's going to have a big role in that Dragons side next season. So, look, if you hadn't done so already, and there's some cards still available on the market, you might want to just jump up and get a couple of Luke Metcalf cards, even if Tamari Martin does come back in the next couple of weeks, because I think he's going to have a big season ahead of him. Look, yeah, like you said, the Broncos, who knows what they're going to bring up as well. I feel like they're continuing their slippery slope, but who knows? They could come out and they could absolutely destroy the Warriors. We've seen that happen plenty of times at Suncorp Stadium as well. So I know Saturday night we're going to have a lot of eyes on that game, and it's going to be a massive one for both the Warriors and the Broncos fans to want to get something out of this season. So I think I do like Luke Metcalf, but I think I like Lachie Galvin just that little bit more. And he's going to obviously have a big game against the Bunnies this weekend, surely. You touched on the Doggies and their sort of return to form in the back end of the season and their run home. And talk to us about, are you keen to get Lachie Galvin in your side, or is he going to be someone where you're just looking for that pod option and maybe your classic side?
I've got him above Jaden Campbell, so every chance he does sneak into a champion or a challenger side. Looking at the last 5 matches against the Bunnies, right halves have performed really well, averaging 70 GDS points. There's been scores of 65, 96, that was Nico Hines, 66, 63, 61, so all scores above 60. Yes, 3 of those players were kickers. 2 of them weren't goal kickers, which obviously Lachie Galvin isn't. But what makes those numbers more impressive for me is that there's only 1 try scored amongst those 5 halves in those 5 matches, and also only 5 try assists. So 1 try assist on average per match. I think there's every chance here that Lachie Galvin gets a try assist or 2. We know he's a half that loves to run the footy. He gets plenty of run meters. He loves taking the line on, scored a try doing so last week. I wouldn't be surprised to see that sort of happen again. And if we're seeing plenty of defensive frailty there on the left-hand side of the field for the Rabbitohs, Galvin, Preston, look, they're going to take advantage of that. So I love that little stack there. I'm really confident in Lachie Galvin, another player under 24s, get some salary on here as well.
Yeah, and again, that's the tough thing, is that you can play him at under 24s. So do we load up there and take the score there, or do we look to play him in our full slate across the weekend? Look, in terms of someone that we're fading, Ethan Sanders, again, like I said, another tough matchup, and the Sharks really limiting halves across the park. But in particular, right halves. Is Ethan Sanders someone that you're going to fade in under 24s as well, or is that matchup still enough to bring him in?
Yeah, I'm going to fade him in under 24s as well. Sharks limiting those halves to sub 40 points. And look, they'll want to atone for last week's pretty disappointing, pretty embarrassing performance there against the Dragons. So, yeah, Canberra Raiders are going in one direction, the wrong direction. The Sharkies will definitely want to bounce back. They've got plenty of bite left this season. I'm not so sure the Raiders are going to score plenty of points. We know that Sanders is scoring well when the team is scoring points and he's kicking conversions. I just don't see that happening too much with the Sharkies bounce back.
That's right. And look, I'm sure it doesn't need to be said, but if we had a third player on that fade list, it definitely would be Ezra Mann against the Warriors. I don't think you want to chase last week's points, although I would love a hat-trick from Ezra Mann, because every time he scores a hat-trick, the Broncos lose a game. So hopefully we get a hat-trick from Ezra Mann and the Warriors have the win there. Alrighty, let's jump into the centres. And again, we've got some easy options in terms of Adam Dewey and Herbie Farnworth, both back on board, so we can lock those straight in if we are keen. But is someone like Adam Dewey, who's got a little bit of a tougher matchup, Dragons just limited Hines to 30 points, is that telling? Is there something there where you might think about fading Adam Dewey this week?
Oh, no, I don't think so. We love the out of position play. Dewey absolutely puts this side on his back. And anytime he takes the field, we saw what happened off the field a couple of weeks back, and he came out and responded with a 100-point performance, grab the badge and that sort of thing. Yeah, look, although he's probably very unlikely that he gets that 100-point score, I think there's still plenty of confidence in there that he'll get plenty of base. Like Galvin, he's that bigger body, so runs the footy a lot. That show and go close to the line, plenty of kicking meters, and he'll kick some conversions as well. Hopefully, we can see plenty of points scored. It'd be a bit annoying to play Dewey without the safety of 9 or 12 points off the kicking team. You always want that sort of assured. But no, I don't think I need to look anywhere else. I like these two guys. They might not be the top two scoring for the week, but they're the guys I've got the most confidence in.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And look, Herbie Farnworth has got a pretty decent matchup as well this weekend. Not that he needs a positive matchup to score points, but Manly are allowing 54 in the past 3 to the centre position there. And just a little tackle break watch, he's up to 128. Surprisingly, when filtering by tackle breaks across all positions, KO Weeks has snuck into second spot with 125. I know there was a bit of a battle between Suat, Falonga and Farnworth, but Weeks are just creeping up. Farnworth also has the most offloads in the competition with 60. So those are the 2 pretty good reasons to get on Farnworth. But if you do want to go somewhere different, I know we've got Stephen Crichton there in our strongly considered. You can see his 3-round average slightly above his full season average. He's averaging 51 over the past 3. He's someone that I could potentially get into my side. We've already talked about a number of Bulldogs, and there could be a world where I play both Bulldogs halves in a team alongside Preston as well, because they are just looking like they're going to have an absolute field day against the Rabbitohs. Obviously, the Rabbitohs went out to a ridiculous lead at halftime against the Eels last week, but were almost chased down as well. So there are some defensive frailties there. And I think, look, you look at the numbers, and the Rabbitohs have allowed an average of 57 over the past 3 weeks to left halves. That includes Wishart's 80 GDS points in round 21. So obviously a couple of down games following that, but I think if Wishart has the ability to do that in that game, then I think Stephen Crichton can as well. The last 2 weeks were Trindle and Volkman against the Rabbitohs. They actually combined for 5 try assists, 6 tackle breaks, and a try between them as well. So, look, I think those numbers tell a story that the average could have been even higher, because Volkman, he finished with 43 GDS points, but he missed 7 tackles in that game. So it could be a ridiculous score there. So there's obviously plenty of attack available up against the Rabbitohs. And Critter's obviously kicking goals, which is going to be that great point of difference, I think, compared to a couple of other centres that might not necessarily do that. But you're pretty keen on one centre that does kick goals. We haven't talked about him in the positive all season, but Val Holmes is in consideration for a point of difference. Have you gone crazy?
Yeah, keen is maybe an overstatement. I don't think I'm going to play him outside of the Sunday Showdown, but look, is he finally back in playable territory? His matchup certainly says so. Tigers giving up a league high 55 points to left centres through the past 5 matches. Adam Pompey, Matt Timoko, and Sam Marani all scored in the 40s. So you must be asking, well, who's propped up that average then if they were just scoring 40s? It was Val Holmes himself. 2 tries, 4 goals, 89 points back in round 18. He enjoys feasting on the Tigers. Can he do it again? Maybe. Will he be in my side? Absolutely not. He misses far too many tackles for me to be interested in playing him, but definitely in consideration for the Sunday Showdown. Let's just hope he can find the try line once or twice, because that'll negate plenty of those missed tackles.
Yeah, look, 8 missed tackles last week. He still almost made 50 GDS points. That's 24 points gone begging from missed tackles alone. He holds the top spot for the season across all players in the competition for missed tackles with 83 for the season. So, yeah, I don't think I can find a spot for him, but definitely that Sunday Showdown, he could be a big play for anyone that is still involved in that. Best is another one. Bradman Best that we don't have on screen there that I'm keen to sort of have a look at. Returning the Titans giving up 41 to left centres across the season. And as you said, Best back in the team, they just look like a better side when he is there. Is Best someone that you'd rather get in over, say, Holmes or even Tolakula, who had a great start last week but really fell off the side of a cliff at half-time, I think, against the Storm?
Yeah, well, Manly was played decent footy for half a match and then went to bed for the second half of the match, and none of their scores ticked along. So yeah, what was looking pretty promising from Cooler was pretty disappointing in the end. No, look, the centre position pretty easy for me. It's Toby Farnworth, Adam Dewey, like you mentioned, plenty of upside in Stephen Crichton if you want to go a little bit different or add a third centre. But Bradman Best probably has a big score next to Greggy Marju there, outside of Sharp and Ponga if that left side of the field is humming along. But no, the centre position is pretty locked in for me.
Yeah. And then in terms of our fades, Ruben Garrick is the big one. The Dolphins are allowing 11 points to right centres in the past 3. So there is no reason to get Ruben Garrick into your side. And then Kale Erdo returning as well. Against the Raiders, they're allowing 21 in the past 3. So I think it's just a watch and wait for Erdo to see how he returns and get through at least the tougher matchup and then look to exploit his matchups elsewhere over the next few weeks. Alrighty, let's jump into the wingers. And no Suafai-Longa this week. Storm are on a bye, so we've got to look elsewhere. We've got some pretty good options, though, outside of that. Strongly considered Jermaine Asako stays in that spot and is joined by Braden Burns and Tommy Jenkins. Our 2-pointer difference is Selwyn Cobbo again. I think he's sort of sat in that spot for the last few weeks now. And then Greg Marju off a down game where Dom Young absolutely feasted. And then our 2 fades, Jacob Carraz. I think we've talked about the downsides of Jacob Carraz a few times. And then Alex Johnson, you're not keen to follow his unreal performance last week and his hat-trick. So, mate, where are we going? You've got Jermaine Asako, Braden Burns, Tommy Jenkins. You only really want 2. Who are the main 2 from those 3?
Yeah, it's definitely Jermaine Asako. Look, I think the Finns will score plenty of points this week, and he's kicking goals as a much bigger conversation if he wasn't a goal kicker. But because we've got that flaw, he really only hasn't shown that flaw once where the Finns didn't score a point. But look, if he's not scoring tries, he's kicking the goals. We say it all the time. It's just that safe flaw, particularly on a week with no Suafai-Longa, and we've got to go elsewhere. I think he's a lock-in for me. I don't really know. I think the wing position is the hardest for me this round, and I can't really give you an answer based on those other 2. I know you're pretty high on Braden Burns. Tommy Jenkins scares me. We haven't seen a lot from him unless he's scoring tries, apart from maybe just last round. I think it's going to be a really tight affair here, obviously, against the Roosters, almost like semi-finals type game, where you're probably expecting a little bit more grind, a little bit more footy through the middle, and therefore less attacking opportunity out wide. So, yeah, I'm not as high on Tommy Jenkins this week. I could have a pretty bad round, get off to a bad start on Thursday night if that does happen and he does go off. But no, I think there's enough to suggest that he might not score as well as someone like a Cobbo or a Marju. So before we talk about some of those pods, let us know why I'm overlooking Burns or Tommy Jenkins there.
I don't think you're overlooking Tommy Jenkins. Obviously, we talked about last week that he almost needs to cross the line to score points, but he was able to get it done in base and power as well as line breaks. He had 5 line breaks against the Warriors, but he had 11 tackle breaks as well. I think the hard part is, like you said, that matchup. The Roosters allowed wingers on that side. Rinakama 16, Tulangi's 13, and then Marju 49 in the past 3. And not one of those has scored a try. So if coaches look at Jenkins and they think that he's going to provide some upside in terms of line breaks and tackle breaks, then, yeah, get him into your side. But I just don't see him potentially crossing the line. The way the Roosters are playing, likely to have Teddy back, albeit determined by a fitness test that we'd hope you find out in the next 15 or so minutes whether that's the case. I just think Jenkins is probably lower on my list. I do like Braden Burns, though, against the Eels. They were absolutely torched by Joe Gray in that first half. He finished with 84 GDS points after 5 tackle breaks, 3 line breaks, and a try down that right side. So surely the Cows coaching staff, players, they look at that, they see that matchup, they look at what Burns can produce. He is a similar, obviously not a similar build to Joe Gray, but a similar player in that he's got a lot of power behind him. He can break tackles at will, and he can break that line. And he's quite good at getting over the line in that sort of 5-metre area, that 5-metre zone. And if they can give him some early ball and he can get that early contact and get over the line, I think that there's going to be a bit of success there for Braden Burns. So I really like that matchup there with the Eels when, like you said, there's not too many options elsewhere. I also don't mind Greggy Marju. And you've got him there at the point of difference. Is he then your next best?
He's probably more of a bit more of a gut feel, particularly after last week and Dom Young doing all of the damage. I think a lot of coaches might see that and think that's going to repeat itself. But we know that night side is a lot better when Bradman Best is on the left-hand side. No disrespect to Fletcher Hunt, but completely different players. And maybe that's why we saw, a bit more of an even share of the ball going both sides of the field and Dommy Young really capitalising. I think provided Bradman Best does take the field and not a laid out like last week, I think we're likely to see a bit more of upside there from Greggy Marju. Titans aren't super high up in terms of the matches that you want to target, but AKP and Sloan, they both scored tries against the Titans out on that edge for a return of 54 and 57. We know the Knights are a bit better attacking outfit than those players or those teams. So, yeah, I think if things click for the Knights, I think it could be a Greggy big game, and maybe Dom Young gets a bit of a cold out there on the right-hand side because everything's clicking down the left.
Yeah, I like that as well. And I think, again, it's going to be that tough sort of decision-making here where we've got a couple of options that aren't amazing, but they're probably the next best. We're going to have to make that decision. And I think it's similar to what we talk about each and every week, where what are you going to be happy with? Not playing Braden Burns and he goes out and scores 70, or playing him and he scores 20, and the same for Greg Marju and Tommy Jenkins. So you've got to look at that and ask yourself, which one do you prefer? Just quickly on Osako as well, I'm really keen to get him into my side. Manly, although they've limited wingers down that side over the past few weeks, the quality hasn't quite been there. Iramia, Tuimaladu Brown as well, they scored very few points, and then Sione Katoa in the middle of that did score 52 down that side of the field. All three wingers did cross over for a try. So, in fact, Manly have allowed 5 tries in the past 4 games to right wingers. So I think there's definitely upside there for Osako. We know that the quality that he has. So I think, that matchup data probably doesn't quite tell the story that he has in front of him this weekend. And Manly as well, just another team that's are falling over the last few weeks, and they really don't have a lot left in the tank. And I think their season's probably done as well. Whereas the Dolphins, they don't know how to defend, and it doesn't matter because they continue to score more points than their opposition, and that's all they need to do. So plenty of tries on offer there. And as we say, plenty of points for Osako off the boot as well. Alrighty, the big question marks are over the fullback position. We've obviously got a double fullback return in terms of Teddy and Edwards being named in their respective sides, albeit Edwards has been named on the bench at this stage. Both set to undergo fitness tests, and we might even find out in the next 8 or so minutes if we can get that 24-hour team list as to whether
Teddy's out.
Let's
go out.
Live on the show, Teddy is out. So I'm going to put a line through all of my chat about Teddy. That is really easy. So any word on Edwards, or we don't have that update yet?
Still in the 19, Jesse McLean and Leilani going cut from the side. So there's every chance, Edwards could be a late start in the number 1 jersey. Even if he is, look, I've got him there on the fade list. Yeah, the average for the season is really nice, 53 in his past 3 matches. Obviously been out a little bit longer than expected, and he comes back, if he does play, obviously, with a really difficult matchup there against the Roosters, albeit minus Tedesco. Slightly bit of a different football side there when he's not playing, but still only 26 points fullbacks have been scoring in the past 3 matches. So even if we do see Edwards take the field, I wouldn't be rushing in to replace Teddy with him. I'm actually hoping some coaches might want to do that because I'm tipping a down game from him. But, mate, do we have to talk Cody Ramsey, given how many points fullbacks continue to score against the Penrith Panthers?
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and then I had a look at Cody Ramsey's output at fullback in the times that he has played there, and it's not too great of viewing. Look, he's averaging sort of 32 points across the 4 games where he has played 80 minutes at fullback, starting at fullback this season. So I'm not sure about the urgency to bring him into the side, even with the numbers that are suggesting the Panthers give up plenty to fullbacks. Talked about it last week, and then C&K went and scored 65 GS points against the Panthers. They're averaging 62 in the past 3. 2 fullbacks, the Panthers, and then 68 in the past 5. So, yeah, if you love to put yourself in a little bit of pain and hopefully have a lot of success, then Cody Ramsey is your man. I just probably can't get there myself when we've got the 3 guns on screen in terms of Reece Walsh, Kalyn Ponga, and Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. Again, you can see those 3 round averages. They're all slightly above, except for Ponga, who's down a little bit. Let's start with Reece Walsh. No Reynolds again this week. We talked about that a few times on the show. That's similar to last season where from about round 20, Reece Walsh went absolutely berserk without Adam Reynolds. Are we going to expect that again, or are we sort of tempering our expectations based on the way the Broncos are playing?
Yeah, definitely temper, given that they're unable to repeat what they did last season and go on that magic run. And Reece Walsh had his fingerprints over everything, 5 or 6 90 or 100-point scores in a row for GameDay Squad. Absolutely insane. But look, if there's a guy that doesn't give up on the football field for 80 minutes, it's typically Reece Walsh. So, even if the Broncos aren't scoring well, even if they're not winning matches, typically he rolls the sleeves up. Yes, it can result in a lot of negatives and demerits, but look, you've got to take that when the upside is massive. We saw that match against the Penrith Panthers just a month ago where, the Broncos absolutely blitzed them. He scored 90 points without a try, just the 1 goal, 3 try assists, massive kicking meters with Adam Reynolds injured that match. So there's so much upside for Reece Walsh. It really just depends on, the outfit that gets off the bus there from Brizzy and if they can compete with the Warriors and for how long. Because if the Bronx are chasing the game, there's every chance that that Reece Walsh, maybe overplays his hand, too many errors. But look, if the Bronx are in the game, he'll be putting his hands on all over that footy and doing as much as he can to make sure that that team stays in front. Obviously, disappointing second half for them last week. Still resulted in 65 points for Reece Walsh, 6 goals. The goal kicking is always good. Without a try, over 60 points is always pretty handy. So, yeah, with Teddy being out, it probably makes things a little bit easier going for these 3 guys with the big ceiling. So I'm pretty confident in Reece Walsh despite the pretty tough matchup there against your mob. Yeah,
it is going to be a tough matchup, but Reece Walsh against his old side, so we never know what he might throw up as well. Look, you talked about his demerits, and I cannot go this show without talking about Kalyn Ponga's effort last week and his 6 errors, one of them being an absolute bombed try where his score could look a lot different than that 51 points that he threw up. And I think at the end of the day, little spoilers for everyone who is keen to see the BroDown ShowDown results, but I think that drop ball there cost me a BroDown ShowDown victory for the week and for the season. So, look, I'm not holding on to it at all. I am going to play him again because I think this matchup against the Titans this weekend could be anything. Titans are already giving up 50 GDS points over the past 3 to fullbacks, and there's got to be something in it for Ponga, surely. Look, Drinky kicked 5 goals and had a try assist last week against the Titans, who really, they look like they're done. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about their resurgence and them sort of putting together some decent scores and maybe some momentum into next season. And they really fell off a cliff very quickly, and it looks like they're probably starting to think about Mad Monday in Bali, to be honest. So I think that the Knights are on a roll. They've got some finals footy ready to go. I think Ponga's going to have a big game, and I think he might be the difference maker this weekend. I think potentially even be the highest scoring fullback.
Yeah, also didn't kick goals last week and still got a pretty handy score despite all of the errors. That is a bit of an annoying thing. If you are a Ponga player, you just wait for the Knights' first try and get a first glimpse of who's lining the ball up on the kicking tee. And when you see it's Sandon Smith, and you breathe, you're a bit annoyed that it's Ponga, not Ponga going up in threes. That Sandon Smith, you're probably not playing, is the man kicking those conversions. I think that is going to happen again this week, that Sandon Smith kicks. But look, Ponga's a play regardless. And if you see him stepping up to kick that first conversion, then even better. We're going to get a bigger score than anticipated.
Yeah, definitely. Look, Matty P is going with the Walsh-Ponga combination and then potentially either Hammer or Drinky. So talk to us about Hammer, who we've got there as the strongly considered. Is he definitely someone to bring into your side over, say, Drinkwater?
Yeah, a bit more confident in Hammer and the side that he's playing with. Plenty to play for the Finns, and we've seen a a glimpse of Hammer's best so far this season. Particularly, it was that match against the Cowboys back in round 20. No try, but 78 points. So heaps of base. Not only did he rack up over 200 run meters, but 9 tackle breaks, which has been his highest tackle break amount of the season. So yeah, a bit more confidence in Hammer. He can things done without scoring, despite being a try scorer himself. Sometimes when he scores tries, his scores aren't actually that high, and it's sometimes when he doesn't score, like a 78 and a 58 without a try, but a 45 and a 54. Most recently with 3 tries in those 2 matches. Bit of a head scratcher there, but look, I think the Finns will score points. We just saw what happened when a loose ball was on the ground. Hammer picked up the ball and was smiling with 70 meters to run, knowing that no one else in the competition could catch him. So, that's a massive, 17-point play right there. And he's capable of doing that each and every time he takes the field. So, yeah, plenty of confidence there in the Hammer.
Yeah, love it. Look, in terms of our point of differences, James Tedesco obviously put a line through him. Keanu Kinney continues to be that man that has a great matchup, but he doesn't quite deliver. So I just don't know if I'm going to get to him at all. Obviously, he's a potential in the under-24s as well, along with Reece Walsh in that side. So I think I will find a spot for him in my under-24s. In terms of our fades, like we've already talked about, we've got Dylan Edwards there. Chance Nickel-Klokstad probably won't repeat, although the Broncos matchup's not too bad. They've actually allowed 57 to fullbacks in the past 3, but I think there are better options. For me, the big fade is Matty P's option in Drinkwater. I think he's going to have a tough matchup. The Eels have only allowed 30 in the past 3 matches. So I think for me, Drinkwater is going to be one that I am fading this week. And I think those 3 in the strongly considers are going to be those 3 that I roll out across the majority of my side. So maybe might find a spot for Chance Nickel-Klokstad somewhere in there, just because I want the Warriors to have a big game. Alrighty, don't forget as well, there's a couple of injuries. Tom Trbojevic and Latrell Mitchell obviously still injured, although there is some positive news about Latrell, and we could be seeing him in the next couple of weeks. So keep an eye out there for any news. Alrighty, let's have a look at our Stats Lab consensus prime time competition team. Once again, a massive shout out to this Stats Lab team for their ongoing support of the Fantasy Bros. Make sure you head to the statslab.app. Check out all their awesome tools. We've used a bunch tonight. We've loved getting all that data. They've got the player percentages that are transferring across to GameDay Squad as well. So some of the competitions you'll start to see player percentages each and every week. They've got player comparison tools. There's plenty of analysis there to get into. They've also got AFL. They've got AFLW, and they'll have NFL stats there as well. So go and give them a follow. Go and check out the website, the statslab.app. You can see our team for the week. We've got Doggies. We've got Dolphins. We've got one Manly player. We've got a Rooster, and then we've obviously got some Panthers players there as well. Jeremy Marshall-King is in the hooker role. We've got Leo Thompson and IPAP in the forwards, with Lindsay Smith that we've talked about locking that scrum. Preston and Olakau'atu are full round plays, but we want to get them into our prime time as well. The combination in the halves is Cleary and Galvin. We've got Critter and Toya in our centre spot, Jenkins and Asako that we talked about in the wing spot, and then we've got Hammer at fullback as well. So that is our starting 13. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of pod play in the bench as well. Jumping across to our consensus starting 13 for the full slate of games. We talked about all these players. We've got Brayley in the hooker role. We've gone May and Haas, with Twal locking the scrum, and then Preston Olakau'atu on the edge. The halves are Hines and Cleary. They're the 2 favourites for sure in the halves. Our backs, in terms of the centres, we've got Herbie Farnworth and Adam Dewey. We've gone with the Asako Jenkins play just, but I think there's a few different options there that you could play in the wing spot. And then we've gone Caleb Ponga as likely to be the top scoring fullback for the week. Alrighty, I didn't want to do this, but let's jump into BroDown ShowDown quickly before we head off. You can see that Mian G has won. Congratulations, Mian, a long-time listener, long-time follower. He's voted for Stu to get up. And as I said, the only difference really was that Ponga drop ball just before, just about to score a try. So pretty horrible pass for him. But Jackie Williams got the job done for me on the middle side, outscoring Payne Haas.
Yeah,
and then I actually got it done. How good. Jackie Williams, get around him. Alrighty, Mian G, as always, mate, we've got a 9-player pack for you. Let's jump in and see what we can get you this weekend. Hopefully we can get you something good to roll out in your squads. We're going to do a 9-player rare pack. Now, make sure you DM me on Discord. And while I'm doing that, if you are keen to get involved and want to try to win some packs, all you need to do is comment who you think is going to win between Stu and I when we bring up this week's BroDown Showdown. And if you get it correct, you are in the draw. We spin the wheel and you may win 9 players, just like Mian has done here. And Mian, we have the good animation. Here we go. So, Stu, just checking you can see all of those on screen.
Yep, I can.
Alrighty, let's get into it. Izzy Katoa in plat. Jacob Laban, a great under-24s play with the gold. Brandon Wakem, large. We've got Owen Paddy Diamond. How about that? That is unreal.
Nice.
Trent Salau, gold. Jai Arrow, gold. How about that? Get the Jai Arrow into your GDS account and the double Trent Salau. Wowee, that Owen Paddy gold, diamond, that goes straight into the under-24 side, surely.
Yeah, nice hit. I don't even think I've got one of those cards yet. So, Mian, get my DMs, buddy. See what I can do for you.
There you go. Unreal. Alrighty, and this week's BroDown Showdown, round 24. We've got halves, we've got centres, and we have hookers. And so with this time, I went with Nathan Cleary against Stu's Nico Hines. I've gone Adam Dewey up against Stewie's Farnworth, and then I've got Blake Brayley. And Stu, you've gone with a bit of a curveball, hoping for a couple of things to align, the Jacob Little shouts in the last thing of the round. So this could be decided Sunday night at about 7 o'clock. We could know whether I have taken out BroDown Showdown for 2026 or whether you are still in with a shot. So if you think Stu's going to win with those 3, make sure you comment Stu. If you think I am going to get it done and win the season, make sure you comment Dyl, just like Cozzy has done straight away. Thank you very much, my friend. And then you'll have a shot, just like Mian, to get some Unreal cards, including potentially a Owen Paddy Diamond. Alrighty, that is it. We've only got a few shows left before we get to finals and we get into the gridiron season. Look, just so a heads up for everyone, if you are going to play gridiron, we did drop the intro to GDS Everything Gridiron as well this morning on our platform at FantasyBros AU over on YouTube and Spotify. So if you want to check that out to learn a little bit more and get involved, please check that out and give us a follow, etc. That show as well, once we get the NFL season up and running, that will replace this Wednesday night show once the NRL season is done. So it never ends for the Fantasy Bros. Make sure you follow us on all of our social platforms as well. Remember, at FantasyBros AU, there is plenty of content to digest. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for your comments. Good luck for the weekend. Stu, good luck in the Sunday Showdown in particular, mate. Hopefully you get the job done for the Fantasy Bros in our competition that is named after us.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, Dyl.
Alrighty, have a good one.